What is up, chefs, foodies, students? Welcome to Everybody Knows. I'm Anders. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. Today we are talking about the aroma category of vegetative. The category of vegetative includes aromas from plant-based foods that aren't fruits or oils, focused kind of on their uncooked state. In other words, most of these aromas come from the stems, leaves, shoots, roots, flowers, pods, seeds, or other living tissues of many kinds of plants. The main aromas of most greens come from combinations of the following compounds: pyrazines, which is sort of like the classic green smell of grass, sulfur or thiol compounds like in onions or asparagus, sulfurous or phosphorus compounds like in broccoli, and mustard oil like in radishes or other brassicas. But there are so many different kinds of vegetables, and there's so many other compounds for all of their smells. Other common descriptors of vegetative might be green, vegetable, or plant-like. Let's take a look at the aroma wheel. As we look at it, the vegetative category is roughly 1/4 of the entire wheel. It's huge. It's a huge category. So if we look at it a little closer, we actually don't get too much closer. It's still massive. If we look at it, we sort of have these descriptive categories that are more general, and then we have a bunch of subcategories. So we start with a descriptor called telluric, which is sort of just a polite way of saying like dirt. Then we have a meaty category, a floral category, and an herbaceous category. To look a little bit closer, we can see that here in the telluric category, we have a lot of our root vegetables. We then have some aquatic vegetables. We then go into our meaty category, which was the best word that I could summon to describe mostly the nightshades, but also the squashes. Feel free to challenge me on this one. This part gets hard because it's like something like a tomato is so complex. It's so complex. And besides thinking, oh yeah, it's a vegetable of some kind, man, it gets really muddy. So yeah, screenshot that, let me know. It's hard. This is a tough section. We then get into floral, which actually contains the flowers. If you think about, like, they are not fruits, but they are parts of plants that are floral. That's where the flowers live. So we have all of our flowers. We also have the tea section in there. And then we get down to herbaceous. So within herbaceous, we have all of the herbs in their own sort of section. We have the fresh section, which is sort of the brighter stuff or the crisper flavors like celery. We also have the lettuces in here, green pepper. We then get into a peppery section, which is more that mustard oil content. We go through a little dried section into the grains. Some seeds are in there as well. We then have the corn section, and that's featured as a family and as an aroma family, so things that smell kind of like that side of the grain family. And then we go into the legumes, which we have sort of the dried versions and the fresh versions. We finally finish with sulfurous, which contains some of the brassicas and all of the alliums, and then pungent, which gets us into some of the kind of oddballs, if you will, which also include olives, but then things like artichokes, asparagus. And so that sort of concludes back into, as we get into olives, and that brininess brings us into the vegetative section of marine, which is kind of convenient. And that's kind of the summary of this gigantic category that is really complex. Our examples today, I've got two. One is a tomato, which we already sort of talked about, and one is a yellow onion. And again, just scratching the surface to get some of those compounds. That's strong. We got enzymes in there. We've got some sulfur in there. It's got some like sugar content, the caramelization effect, and that also brings us back to that idea, like a lot of the vegetables in this category in terms of aroma are the uncooked versions, assuming that as you cook them, they also change a little bit. So that's just a dimension that's not captured here. Some things to note. I will say this in multiple videos, but the line between fruits and vegetables is very blurred and very subjective. I personally hate the words fruit and vegetable. It's all plant parts, but their differences are generally agreed upon in regards to their aromas and their roles in certain cuisines. There will definitely be debate in some of the specific identifiers, such as avocado and rhubarb. So like, rhubarb is not a fruit, but is almost always eaten with fruits, and so has that association. Whereas avocado is a fruit, but is not eaten in the same context that most fruits are eaten. So it's messy. It's messy. As to what should be called fruity and what should be called vegetative, there's debate. There's also debate around the line that is drawn between herbs and spices. That's a blurry one. Again, it's like both of them can be dried, some of them can be fresh. They are both very strong aromas, and neither of those categories are near each other on the wheel, and vegetative and fruity are not near each other on the wheel. So it's messy. Let the debating commence or continue. I'm all ears. I'm up for feedback, but again, part of it is like making one continuous two-dimensional spectrum and how it just sort of worked out that way. So, also something to note is that vegetative may be the most diverse category on the wheel, and it's certainly the biggest. So that's interesting. And that about wraps it up. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about the word in the category vegetative as you are cooking or eating, and think about, do I like these aromas or not, and why or why not? Do they bring up certain memories, or do certain things come to mind when you smell them? And finally, what we looked at and talked about here, does that all make sense? Does it, do you agree with some of the choices that I've made? I assume I will get some very differing opinions on this one. Let me have them. Go ahead and comment any of the answers to those questions down in the comments. I would love to read through them. I really appreciate the feedback. You may have noticed I wore my vegetables shirt. You don't like vegetables? There is a backside. Let's see if anybody guesses what's on the backside. If someone does, or eventually doesn't guess, I'll put a photo in the comments of what's on the backside of this shirt. I hope this video made sense and got you thinking about the vegetative family of food aromas. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to join the food aroma nerdery, go ahead and subscribe. You'll see all my latest videos. If you would like a hard copy poster of the aroma wheel or a digital copy of the aroma wheel that I've created, there will be links in the description. Thanks so much. Bye.